And welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Gratitude. My name is Christian, and here on the show we talk about great stories that exist within movies, TV, and video games. First of all, I want to extend a happy Dragon Age Day to all of my fellow Dragon Age fans. What a wonderful day we had. Man, we got the locations that we're going to be playing in Dragon Age Dreadwolf, and summer of 24 can't come soon enough. Hopefully we get a release date that says later in the year. November, December release date. Cross your fingers. So, today on the show we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about a different video game, not Dragon Age. We're talking about Baldur's Gate 3. Now this isn't going to be your typical regular game review. There are channels out there that do it more professionally than I will. But I will say this about Baldur's Gate because it deserves the flowers. It is such a well-made game. Just flat out a incredibly made game. From down to the characters, to the world, to the mechanics of the game. Just a fabulous game. And you can tell that Larian put a lot of love into each second that they were working on this game. I will say that I think the weakest point of the game is its story. Personally, I found that Act 2 was probably the most interesting part of the game, and that was when the villains were still Ketheric, Gortash, and Orin instead of the Mind Flayers. But don't let that take away, it's still a fantastic game, one of the all-timers for sure. But what we're going to talk about in regards to Baldur's Gate is actually the discussion surrounding Baldur's Gate after it released. I watched all the reviews, just like you did, if the game was good or not, to see if I wanted to buy it. And everyone loved it, and I loved it too. I've played it 3 times. Played it all the way through, 3 different characters, and it's a great game. But the sentiment, the thing that all the reviewers, all the people in the comments kept saying that made me raise my eyebrows and piqued my interest was that, they said, we don't get games this good like Baldur's Gate that often. And that made me ask the question, well, is that true? Do we actually not get games that good that often? Because Baldur's Gate released in August of 2023. I had already played games that were pretty darn good throughout this year. And I was looking forward to a game later in 2023 that looked pretty darn good. So, with that said, I did some research to answer the question, well, is that sentiment true? Do we not get great games like Baldur's Gate all that often? So, we're going to take a journey together through the last 10 years of video games. We're not going to look at every video game, just the highlights of each of the last 10 years, to try and answer the question, or rather try and see if we can make a case that any of the games that have released since 2013 are either at the level or higher than Baldur's Gate. And you can be the final judge on whether it's better or not. We're just trying to see if we can make the case. So, I've gone ahead and given each of these years its own name. Alright, so let's look at 2013. So this is a year I've dubbed a legendary year. Why is it legendary? Let's look at some of the games that came out that year. First, BioShock Infinite, great game. Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, great game. GTA 5, all-timer. Last of Us, all-timer. Why is this a legendary? Listen, if let's see, 15-year-old me back in 2013 walked up to you and said, hey, I've got a digital library I'll sell to you for $100, and GTA 5, The Last of Us, BioShock Infinite, Assassin's Creed Black Flag are on it. How quickly are you pulling out your $100 from your wallet or going to the bank to get them? Super quick. This is a legendary year, no doubt. But do any of those games measure up to Baldur's Gate 3? I would say at least 2 of them, GTA 5 and The Last of Us, certainly stick out to me as the ones who probably measure up the best with Baldur's Gate. Certainly The Last of Us, at minimum, at bare minimum, The Last of Us is on par, at bare minimum, if not better. In GTA 5, you could say commercially, probably on par with Baldur's Gate as well. I mean, there's a reason why Rockstar hasn't made a GTA 6 yet. It's the same reason why Bethesda hasn't made an Elder Scrolls 6 yet. Because why do we need to make a sixth one if we can just live off the proceeds from the fifth one in perpetuity? So that's 2013. Let's go to 2014. Bit of a dip. There's no all-timers this year, but I mean, still a pretty great year with Shadow of Mordor, universally loved title. Dragon Age Inquisition, a amazing title, and that's honestly a little bias on my part. My favorite game, Dragon Age Inquisition, but even without the bias, I would still say it's a great game. One game of the year. Far Cry 4, good game. So no groundbreakers there, and I certainly wouldn't say, as much as I love Dragon Age and Shadow of Mordor, I wouldn't say any of them would measure up to Baldur's Gate in terms of quality, in terms of gameplay or anything. But they're still great year in its own right. So we look at those 2 years, right? And we say, well, okay, there was a down year, so maybe there's a drought, and that's why we don't have any great games like Baldur's Gate 3 anymore. And then 2015 comes and drops another legendary year. If I walked up to you in 2015 and said, here's a digital library, and let me just name some of these games off for you. Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain, Bloodborne, Batman Arkham Knight, Fallout 4, Undertale, Rise of the Tomb Raider, MKX, and oh, by the way, just for last, The Witcher 3. How quickly are we pulling out all the money we have to get that digital library? Amazing year. And I think the ones that would measure up the best out of 2015, The Witcher 3 obviously to me stands out probably above even Baldur's Gate 3. And Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing, as we said. Batman Arkham Knight, you could also make a good argument that is on par with Baldur's Gate. 2016, I've dubbed the Kool-Aid Man year. Why? Because every single game, all the great games, the top flight games out of this year were consistently great. Uncharted 4, Last Guardian, Dark Souls 3, XCOM 2, Persona 5. All fantastic games. Wouldn't say, I don't know that I'd put any of them, I mean, I might put Uncharted Story certainly above Baldur's Gate Story, but I think the gameplay of Baldur's Gate is too fun. Great games, consistently great year for gaming. None that I think surpass Baldur's Gate. All right, so let's go to 2017 then. A year that's great with issues though. So let's look at the issues first. 2017 was the year we got the Battlefront 2 disaster that EA gave us. Had to get the law involved because of their predatory loot boxes. Then we had Mass Effect Andromeda, that a buggy mess bordering on unplayable. There's some redeeming qualities in Mass Effect Andromeda. The problem is you have to swim through the muck to find it, so it eventually just doesn't become worth it for all the bugs you have to deal with. So you have those two issues. And then we look at the great ones that came out of 2017. Horizon Zero Dawn, great game. Super Mario Odyssey, a very fun game. Nier Automata, a great game that not enough people played. Cuphead, lots of fun. And then you have this all-timer, a little-known game known as Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Maybe you've heard of it. Definitely, I would say, on the level, at minimum, of Baldur's Gate. So 2017 gave us some great ones, even regardless of the drama that we had in the gaming industry. 2018, I dubbed this one the all-time Triple Crown. Why? Plus that guy. We'll talk about that guy after we talk about the Triple Crown first. Red Dead 2, God of War, Marvel's Spider-Man. 3 undisputed all-timers. I think Spider-Man gets a little dinged because of how great its sequel, but I don't think we should take away how great the first one was, because it was absolutely incredible, just because its sequel is even better than the original. Those 3, I mean, God of War, Red Dead 2, we don't need to talk about. They are undisputed all-time greats. I mean, how many of us are still playing Red Dead Redemption 2? Also, we had that year Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which I don't think gets enough love because of the Triple Crown that came before. But Shadow of the Tomb Raider, very good game. Okay, so who is that guy? If any of you have watched Dude Perfect, they have a stereotypes video about the gym. And there's one stereotype where it's the guy who sits in the corner eating a pickle. And it's just a dude, it's tied just in the corner, gnawing on a pickle. Fallout 76 is that guy eating a pickle in the corner, ruining everybody's day. While we're trying to just enjoy the Triple Crown, here comes Fallout 76 to ruin everything. So he's that guy. So the Fallout 76 is that guy. 2019, above average year, but not quite at the level of a Triple Crown. Very few years are. We have Sekiro, great game. Star Wars Fallen Order, a great game that I think definitely EA finally turned the corner to see, single players actually make us money now. So Star Wars Fallen Order, for its impact, does great things, even if it's not quite Baldur's Gate 3. Devil May Cry 5, great game. Not a Baldur's Gate. I think it's maybe just as fun to play as Baldur's Gate. But I would still take Baldur's Gate over Devil May Cry, even though I love the game. 2019 also gave us Anthem, another BioWare mishap. I think the theory behind Anthem was interesting and good. Execution and the time invested into it, not enough. And just the execution wasn't very good. So Anthem, bad that year, but a good thought, good in theory, interesting idea. Sometimes they just don't work out. And then we get to the year from hell, 2020. Definitely a mixed bag of a year in terms of the games we got. Lots of, I think, home run swings. Lots of games with really good ideas. Similar to Anthem. Some had problems. Cyberpunk, one of them. I think Cyberpunk without the bugs is probably pretty close to an all-timer. The problem for me with Cyberpunk was I literally could not play the game. Couldn't get past the start menu without it crashing. So that was an issue. But I think if you were able to play the game without any problems, you'd probably be able to say it's a great game to a all-timer of a game. Especially now with all the new updates and additions they've added to Cyberpunk. Last of Us. The controversial one. So if you get the reference, you get the reference. Last of Us 2 is the CM Punk for me of video games. You either love him or you hate him. And I personally love CM Punk, but I hated The Last of Us 2. Even though I hated it, can fully admit that The Last of Us 2 is an incredibly well-made game and fun game to play. The gameplay is a lot of fun. The platforming and world building and interactions are a lot of fun. Couldn't get past the story. Couldn't get past what I felt was an egregious turn to the story. So, mixed controversial bag for Last of Us 2, even though it's a well-made game. What else we got that year? Doom Eternal, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Two very fun games. Doom especially. Spider-Man, a little short, but it's still a very fun game. It's another Spider-Man game. Swinging around with Miles was a lot of fun. Nothing in that 2020 era, though, measures up to Baldur's Gate, in my opinion. I think Cyberpunk, without the bugs, gets probably the closest. And Last of Us 2, if you enjoyed Last of Us 2, you would probably also say that it would measure up, because it's just a high-quality built game. 2021, this one dubbed Nothing Virally Bad. You had a bunch of good to very good games. Halo Infinite, good, not great, had some issues with it. Resident Evil Village, very good. All of the Resident Evil remakes were lots of fun. I really enjoyed them. And then Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I mean, if we're all honest, we all bought it. But I think it says something about the year when a remake of 3 games from several years ago are probably the most popular. Is probably the most popular title that year. And I don't think anything from that year measures up to Baldur's Gate 3. So we've got, what's this? This is 3 years in a row. Nothing quite measuring up. So you could say there's a bit of a drought there. But now we get to 2022. This is just last year. And I've dubbed this the return of the all-timers. We get God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring, 2 behemoth all-timers, the heavy hitters. Okay? And then we coming in also that year, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, very popular, Evil Dead, a popular game. So the 2, God of War Ragnarok and Elden Ring, to me are the most obvious that stand up and measure up with Baldur's Gate 3, especially God of War Ragnarok. And it's crazy to think that was just both of these games were just last year. Okay, so we've gone through now since 2013 to 2022, just last year, and we already have 8 all-time great games. But each year, right? Each year has very good to very fun to great games, even the ones that don't have all times in the years. So I think we've already, with the 8 all timers that measure up to it, to Baldur's Gate, I think we can already dead the argument that we don't get amazing, very well made, high quality, heavily thought out video games that often like Baldur's Gate. I think we do. God of War Ragnarok being one of them. That was just last year, and Elden Ring that were just last year. And to be completely honest, and we're going to go through 2023 in just a second, I don't even think Baldur's Gate's the best game that's come out this year. So let's go through 2023. I've dubbed this the back-to-back all-time years. Let's look at them. We got BG3, obviously, Baldur's Gate 3. Spider-Man 2, all-timers. The game I think is better than Baldur's Gate 3 that's come out this year. Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, another all-timer. Super Mario Wonder, great game. Probably going to end up being an all-timer when it's all said and done for Super Mario. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, great game. Another step in helping EA realize that single player is the way to go. Hogwarts Legacy, great game. I think people often forget that came out earlier this year. It's a really good game. Very good game. Diablo 4, very good. MK1, very good. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a very popular game. Starfield, another very good game that came out right around the same time as Baldur's Gate 3. So, again, this shows that regardless of whatever issues that the gaming industry has, and if you notice the pattern, it came from three suspects usually: EA, BioWare, and Bethesda. And I absolutely adore Bethesda and BioWare, but they need to get their stuff together. But we get good games quite often, and I think we need to just appreciate, and because here's the big thing is Baldur's Gate 3 is great on its own without the overhyping and the hyperbole to try and take it over the edge. And what it really ends up doing is taking away from some of the great titles that are either coming out at the same time or came out the year before. We didn't just get a Ragnarok, or Starfield's not that good. The weird hate on Starfield just because Baldur's Gate came out at the same time, I think was pretty unnecessary. Starfield's good to very good. I don't think it's you don't have to hate one to enjoy the other. So, and the future of gaming looks good too. So my prediction for next year is that we're going to have back-to-back-to-back all-timer years. And there's a lot of hopium in this prediction because, as I said earlier, Dragon Age Inquisition is my favorite game. The Dragon Age franchise is my favorite franchise. And next year, we started off this podcast by wishing everybody a happy Dragon Age Day. There's a lot of hopium in my prediction that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is going to be an all-time great of a game. I think there's all the ingredients of either an all-time great, an all-time stinker. It seems like BioWare only is capable of putting out stinkers or bangers. So I do think, though, that the elements of a great story, the elements of a great narrative, and a great gameplay, if they continue with the Inquisition gameplay, I think and improve on it. I think all those things have the ingredients of making a fantastic all-timer of a game next year. Or we might end up with a stinker, but hopefully not. Hopefully not. And I think there's a lot to be grateful for. I think there's a lot to be thankful for that we've gotten in the last decade. Baldur's Gate amongst the top of them. It is a fantastic game, a legendary game, certainly in the industry. And I'm thankful for all of the games that we've gotten, the great ones at least, because like it just shows how healthier than we think the gaming industry is, and how as gamers, man, how well we're eating. We've been eating really well for the last decade. We've been enjoying the heck out of games for the last decade, and some really great ones. So, that's Baldur's Gate 3. Great game. What did you think of Baldur's Gate 3 if you've played it? What's your favorite playthrough of it? Also, leave that in the comments. Also, in the comments, you go ahead and question of the day: what is your top 5 personal favorite games that you've played? Here, I'll just quickly give you mine. NBA 2K is the game I play probably the most. Not high quality. I'm not playing it for the story. I'm playing it really for the basketball and the time to kill. But it's fun. Mindless fun. Number 4, Gears of War 2. Number 3, Uncharted 4. I'm playing through that right now again. Great story. The end of that, like the last half of Uncharted 4 is absolutely incredible. Number 2, Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm going to play that after Uncharted 4. And number 1, Dragon Age Inquisition. What is your top 5? Go ahead and leave it in the comments. And while you're leaving in the comments, go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Thank you if you stuck around for the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.